My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching real estate. And the purpose of today's video is to give you a market update for what's going across Alaska in all of the big marketplaces that exist up here. So we're going to be looking at Anchorage, the MatSu Valley, Fairbanks, and the Kenai Peninsula. Before we get started though, do make sure you drop me a like so it makes it a little bit easier for other people who are trying to find us on YouTube. And without further ado, let's go and jump into today's market update. As with all of my market updates, the first thing we're going to look at is going to be the active inventory. And the first market we're going to look at is going to be Anchorage. So what we're seeing over here, this time last year, there were about 524 homes that were on the market. This year, we're seeing it's a lot closer to about 300, 380. So drop of inventory for what we're seeing for Anchorage. The next thing we're going to look at is the number of units that have actually sold in this market during that time period. There were 360 this time last year. Now we're seeing it's actually about 320. So seeing a bit of a dip in the number of properties that have actually sold. Lastly, let's take a look and see what happened as far as the average sold price in Anchorage. It went from about 407 to 417, which is actually pretty expected for what we're seeing for the year. But we'll talk more about that in the summary though. Switching gears a little bit, let's go and take a look at the MatSu Valley. What we see over here is the inventory went from roughly about 370 properties that were on the market this time last year. Now it's about 350. So still seeing a drop, not as dramatic as what we've seen in previous months though. Next, what we're going to look at is the number of properties that have actually sold. This time last year in the month of September in the MatSu Valley, 244 properties sold. This year, 241. So staying just within striking distance of each other. Not a whole lot of difference there. Next, we're going to look at the average sold price for the MatSu Valley. So this is where we've seen the most movement. It went from roughly about 317,000 this time last year to just under 350,000. So seen a lot of movement as far as the pricing goes in the MatSu Valley. So average sold price is up. I think the correct amount is closer to about 347,000, but pretty close to 350. We're going to be jumping into the Kenai Peninsula and the update on Fairbanks in just a minute here. Before we do that though, if you haven't already received the relocation guide for answering all the questions that you might have as you're moving up to Alaska, do make sure that you reach out to me through my website. Link for that is going to be down below. And you can go ahead and just register to the website and make sure you put relocation guide in the little part where you can send a message to me, and that'll tell me I just need to send that over to you. So free resource, make sure that you use it even if you're just thinking about moving up here. Now without further ado, let's go and finish today's market update. Now looking at the Kenai Peninsula, what we see is the inventory went from roughly about 314 properties total or on the market last year to about 230 properties this year. So obviously pretty significant drop in inventory in the Kenai Peninsula. Next for the Kenai Peninsula, you know what's coming up next, and that is the number of properties that have actually sold. This time last year, 108 properties sold. This year, 100. So a little bit of a drop in the number of properties that have sold in the Kenai Peninsula. Now let's check out and see what's going on as far as the average sold price goes. This actually went up significantly from this time last year. So what we're seeing is it went from about 284,000 this time last year to about 324,000 this past year, or this past month, I should say, this year. So pretty big uptick in the number of, in the average sold price. We'll talk about why that probably is in the summary. Last but not least, let's go and see what's going on in Fairbanks. So smaller market than what we're seeing in the other places, but in the Fairbanks market, what we're seeing is that there were 70 properties on the market this time last year. Now there are 50. Moving on, this time last year, 29 homes sold during the month of September. And for this month, what we're seeing is that there are 22. So drop in the number of properties that have actually sold. Not talking about a big sample size though. Last but not least, let's take a look and see what's going on as far as the average sold price in the Fairbanks. And what we're seeing here is average sold price. This time last year it was about 255,000. This year, 344,000. So huge spike in the average sold price. And There's obviously a lot of good reasons for that, and let's go and talk about that in the summary, which is now. So across the board, what we're seeing is inventory does remain low. I kind of have a theory, a bit of a working theory right at the moment, that we are going to start seeing inventory creeping back up. That's kind of been the trend I've seen in my medium markets in South Central Alaska with Anchorage and the MatSu Valley. We are starting to see the seasonal trends that it is going down, but the trend has been that inventory has been going up really since about March or April. We expect to kind of see some seasonal cycles going here where the inventory will actually be going down. As long as inventory remains down and the mortgage rates remain low, we can expect to see the overall sales price for properties to be relatively high, which if you're a buyer, not the end of the world, because you're getting the good interest rates on it, and that's going to go a long way. Okay, that's really where you can kind of make or break it right now. And that's really kind of been similar across all the different markets that we're seeing. Now, if we're looking at the Kenai Peninsula, we're obviously seeing just kind of a smaller world, but kind of the same, playing by the same rules over on the Kenai Peninsula. So across the board, if you're a buyer, not going to be a whole lot of options, but if there's still great options out there. And the good thing is, if you're getting tired or afraid of jumping into it and think you're going to wait till the summertime, other people are thinking of doing the same thing, so you might just jump into it. If you're a seller and you're on the fence, you might not get a better shot than right now. And if you think you're going to wait until, just till the market turns around, makes it easier for you to buy a place, well, you can do that. It's definitely going to be a trade-off, and you'll have to just decide what's really important for you moving forward. So I sure hope this was useful for you. If it has, make sure you give this video a like. If you have any further questions about real estate, do reach out to me on my Facebook, and link for that is going to be in the description section down below. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.